everybody. My name is Carla Villa. I'm here on behalf of what I refer to as the Ipswich Wellness Collective. We started out like, I don't know, 4 years ago. It just was like yoga play dates with my friends. We started doing like full moon yoga at Pony Express and just trying different things. And then one day, Carrie Bates, who I know through so many different things, we spent a lot of time during Illumination together. She was like, what do you think about doing like a 4-week series? And I said, sign me up, right? So we did 4 weeks, and it was so popular that we extended it to another 4 weeks for that first year. So I'm so grateful to be here 3 years later. This is the 3rd year of the Winter Wellness Sampler. Woohoo! And it would not be possible without friends like people like Tom that I know, Jody, my friend Jody of Savanti Teas, who donates tea every week. And all of the people that show up for it. And I'm so grateful that Carrie Bates and the town of Ipswich really help to make sure that this happens and that all the, there's like take care of all of the nice details like beautiful lighting. So I'm really excited to be here for a 3rd year in a row. And this year here at Town Hall too. It's a new space for us, but I think it's really exciting to be, like our taxpayers pay for this. So like let's use it for something that's nourishing, helpful, that helps us build inner resilience. Because I feel like that's really what we need in these days. So once again, just thank you all for being here. We have 8 weeks of programming, and I'll give you more information on those towards the very end. But right now, I do want to point out, just because of the topic here with Tom tonight, I wanted to point out Erin. Oh, from the YMCA. And I think that she runs a program at the Y that is available to the community, so I'm going to let her actually tell you about it.
Hi, my name's Erin Almeida, and I teach the Live Strong program over at the Y. It's a 12-week program for cancer survivors. A cancer survivor is someone who is no more than 5 years out. It can be before, during, or after cancer treatment. And we work on strength. It ends up being like a small group personal training class. People really get to know each other. Within the small group, we'll do cardio. We start with cardio, then we work on strength, flexibility. At the end, they get to try 2 different aqua classes with our great instructors. Like, they get to meet other instructors at the Y, and then they also get to try yoga 2 times, and it's great. Carla and Jan have been great. I really feel like we've made a connection because I've gotten to know them better, and I learned more about yoga, and I love it. So. My cards are going to be over there on the table. Best way to reach me is the cell phone. I circled that, or the email address, and I can get back to you. We have another 12-week program that's going to be starting in March. Meets Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 o'clock p.m. to 6:30. And I hope some people will be interested.
And you don't have to be a member to
Right,
sign.
it's a free program for members or people who are, or the community.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just felt like I work at the Y, Jan works at the Y, and it's just such we've teached to people in those classes, and it's such a great program. So if you have a need or know somebody in your life who could use that as a service, please take advantage of it. So with that, I am going to hand it off to Tom Sprague. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Carla.
Great. First off, thank you everyone for coming.
I had a physics class way back in high school. I think that was the last science class I had, and one of the things they talked about was what an object in motion tends to stay in motion, an object at rest tends to stay at rest. So first off, I want to thank you all for going from being an object at rest to taking the motion to come here, and hopefully that will be worth your while. I don't know about you, but I've had quite a week. So what I'd like to do is start off with a little breathing exercise. This is something that I've been doing for years and years. It's called the 4-7-8 breath. It's a great way to get your mind into your parasympathetic nervous system, out of the fight or flight part of your brain. The way this works is you touch the tongue to the top of the inside of your mouth, where the top of your teeth meet your gums. You're going to hold it there for the entire exercise. You're going to begin with a big whoosh getting all the breath out of our system. Then you're going to inhale for a count of 4 through your nose, hold it for a count of 7, exhale through your mouth for a count of 8, hence the name 4-7-8 breath. So I'll walk you through it. We'll begin, again, tongue to the inside roof of your mouth. Inhale for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through your mouth for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do it again. Tongue in the same place. Inhale through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through your mouth for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. Tongue in the same place through the nose. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through the mouth for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can do that breath anytime you feel stressed, if it's a stressful event coming up, but you can also do it during the day. It's good to get your mind trained to that point so you can be out of your fight or flight part of your brain more often than not. So it's something you can work on improving over time. The other nice thing about it is you can do this, no one knows you're doing it. If you have a big meeting coming up or a job interview, no one even knows you're doing this. You can very subtly calm yourself down. Like I said, it's something I do before. I did it before coming on here tonight. Calm myself down. I do it. Had over 100 skin cancer surgeries. I do it before surgery. It's a way that I do it during surgery. I do it after surgery. It's just a really good way to be calm. So let's see here. Oh, that's better. Look at that. Look at the power I have. Oh, my.
Tell me when to stop.
I feel very Star Wars-y. Thank you. That's good. Yes. Much better. All right. So we're going to start with this. This is a really important point. You have an amazing body. Probably more amazing than you're even aware of, because so much of the stuff our body does on the regular we take for granted. Things like you take 1,000 breaths a day, you pump 2,000 gallons of blood. Your brain sends info at 350 miles. That's faster than a bullet train. Your whole body does this. Your heart beats 100,000 times a day. It's just crazy. It's an amazing body, but that's not all. Your body has amazing natural healing power. This is my daughter Delaney here. She's holding up a starfish. Now, it's not like we can regrow limbs like starfish, but it's still pretty impressive. But the key is how to empower that healing ability. So how do we go about doing that? Well, one thing is, maybe you've thought of this before, I know I have. You ever wonder how much impact stress and anxiety actually have? It's just like such a thing just kind of hanging out in their ether. Oh yeah, I'm kind of stressed, or I'm kind of anxious. But what does that really mean? How does that really impact our health? That's a really good question, and I'm really glad you asked it, because if you hadn't, I'd have nothing to talk about. So let's jump right in. So this is my early family life. That's me in the position high up on the back there, and my dad and mom. My dad had the disease of alcoholism, and he could be abusive. A little bit of stress there as a kid. He had his stress regimen. The way he dealt with stress was cigarettes, 3 packs a day. If he was awake, there was a cigarette lit in his hand. Alcohol, like I said, he had the disease of alcoholism. He was really good at anchoring down the cushions on the couch while he watched TV. That was kind of his exercise, so to speak. And he was very good at unhealthy eating. In fact, when he passed away, we cleaned out his fridge. All that was in there was chocolate eclairs. I'm not sure what food group that comes into, but I'm sure it's not covering all 4 of them. So after college, I moved home to protect my mom and my brother. And then I moved out to marry that awesome woman right there, who's here with us tonight. So here I am, year 1. I'm in an abuse-free environment, which is awesome. I'm in a smoke-free environment. I can breathe. My eyes don't burn, my nostril hairs don't burn. This is so great. That brings us to year 2. So we're living in Connecticut at the time, and one day Jen comes up and says, you know, you got the scrape on your back, doesn't seem to be getting better. Maybe you should get that looked at. Okay, whatever. Go to the doctor, turns out it's skin cancer, basal cell carcinoma skin cancer. I kept getting them, and they're like, that's weird. Why do you keep it? So they sent me to Yale New Haven Hospital to become a human lab rat at rounds, so they can poke and prod me and find out what's going on. They couldn't figure it out. Moved to Boston, took a job at an ad agency up here, went to a new dermatologist. He's like, that's weird, you keep getting these skin cancers, there must be something going on. Why don't you go to rounds at Tufts? Well, it's Tufts now, it was New England Medical Center back in the day. Sure enough, they diagnosed me with a rare disease called Gorlin syndrome. 1 in 35,000 people get this. The way it manifests in my body is different from other people, but in my case, which is not totally uncommon for this disease, but in my case, it manifests itself by just continuously making skin cancers. So what they said is, this is a hereditary disease, has nothing to do with how much sun I did or didn't get as a kid. There is no cure, and you'll be coming in for surgery every 3 months for the rest of your life. So I'm in my 20s, and when anybody hears that they get diagnosed with cancer, I did probably what most people did. All about the deny. Deny, deny, deny. That can't be it. Eventually I got through that and realized, okay, this is what I have. This is what I've been told by the doctors. So this is what I'm going to be dealing with. And I'm like, what, you know what? I played 3 sports in high school. I played baseball in college. I'm in great shape. And I'm in my 20s, which, not for nothing, is the indestructible decade of our lives. No one ever gets any stuff in their 20s, so that can't be right. Doctor said, well, that's what you can do. You come in 3 times or 4 times a year for surgery, and maybe try and stay out of the sun. It's not what caused it, but it'll exacerbate it. Great, thank you. That was it. So I got a new job, and at this job, I got hit in the head with a 2x4. Because this was working on a really stressful account, and when I went in for my surgery, instead of my usual amounts, which is like in the 5 to 10 each quarter range, BCCs, now all of a sudden I was getting around 15. One of the times they do on my face, they do what's called Mohs surgery, which means they take a slice of skin, put it in the lab to make sure they get all of it, but not any more than they have to get because the skin on your face is so precious. So they came out and said, the good news is after 6 slices, I got it all, my derm surgeon said. Bad news is the hole in your nose is so big, I can't put you back together again. You're gonna need to come in tomorrow and see a plastic surgeon. I was like, what? I'm still in my 20s. This is gonna be the rest of my life? So at that point, got them through that, went to my boss and said, listen, this is the 2x4 across the head. I got to make some major lifestyle changes here because I'm going to run out of skin fast because there's not a lot of real estate up in here. Switched off this account to a less stressful account. Started working a 4-day week. Doesn't seem like a big deal now. this is back in the 90s. And I can assure you that back in the 90s, women who just had babies were not doing 4-day weeks, let alone a guy, and even more, a guy without kids. You're like, you want to do what? So doing that, I knew that might affect me down the road if the agency lost any business, because the first person to go is that guy doing the 4-day week thing. So, did that, but also, after hearing about my big surgery when I had to get my nose reconstructed, my aunt, who lived in Arizona, sent me a book from a guy by the name of Dr. Andrew Weil. You may have heard of him. He's the founder of integrative medicine in America. He has got a clinic out in Tucson, University of Arizona. She was in Phoenix. She knew about it. I knew nothing about it. But she sent me this book, and I was like, reading this book, and I was saying, there's something I can do. I don't have to be a victim the rest of my life. This is fantastic. Feeling just that little bit of empowerment. So I start off, things like yoga are in there, and Tai Chi, and eating organic food, things like all these great ideas. It's like, I'm up for anything, because this means I don't have to be a victim. So life goes on. I get more stressful jobs, more stressful commutes, and all of a sudden, a pattern starts to emerge, which my wife very nicely illustrated with this slide. You can see we start off, here's my first new job. Then all of a sudden, this bad commute and the job led to my nose reconstruction. But as soon as I left, all of a sudden, my counts went down. And then freelancing, there's no commute. I still have a boss, but he's an okay guy, because I'm working for myself. All I have to deal with is clients who might be difficult, right? Well, then I got a really, what I thought was going to be a dream job, oops, ended up being kind of a toxic workplace. And the only thing worse than being in a toxic workplace is being in a horrific commute getting to and from that toxic workplace. Next thing you know, I'm at 100 BCCs in a year, 30 per visit. This is a huge deal because now my wife, who luckily has been a great nurse for me, because that was not what she majored in college. We have to set the alarm an hour early in the morning before we go to work because it takes that long to do all the wound care for 30 different wounds. So we go through that, and then I had another job later. The job was good, but the commute was still 3 or 4 hours a day in the car. So you can see there's another spike there. So going along with this, my derm surgeon was along for the ride, and she's like, this is an incredible story you have. You got to get out there and start sharing your story, this impact that stress has on your health. So she and the head nurse got me out doing public speaking, and that's how I got to this point. So along that time, following the examples that Dr. Weil had in his book, I tried all kinds of complementary and alternative medicine treatments. And again, this is back in the 90s. So unlike now, where it's kind of pretty common, back then, this was like voodoo. Like I would be telling people I'd go to get needles stuck in me. They'd be like, you're paying for that? But I'm trying stuff, sound healing, emotional freedom type. Some of these things are going to be in this Winter Wellness Sampler in the coming weeks, like the tapping. I had massage therapy back then. This is not Robert Kraft type massage, no happy endings, by the way. Cupping. I was doing cupping long before Michael Phelps made it cool and trendy. There are all these kind of things, like an emotional baggage retreat. It's like, if I saw something, I would give it a go, because what other choice do I have? So I got into doing that and became a thing where I'm trial and error. Because again, back in the 90s, I had to basically be my own doctor, try stuff, some worked, some didn't work. And I crafted kind of a healing regimen around that. Got to the point where I could get about 4 or 5 BCCs removed each quarter. I'm like, you know what? If that's the rest of my life, that's not the worst thing in the world. You know, there's a lot of people with a lot worse stuff than that. And I was all right. I was in that pretty good place. Then COVID came, and the lockdown. Ended up getting all these extracurriculars. I'm an adjunct professor at BU. I had a few students from China. They came back, this is now March of 2020, or January of 2020. They came back from winter break. They come into my classroom and they're wearing masks. And I'm like, I've heard about this kind of virus thingy over in China. I mean, But masks, we've never worn masks or anything over here. That seems kind of crazy, right? But who am I to say? Whatever. 2 months later, of course, we're all wearing masks. Living in Beverly, we had a super spreader event near us. So still back in March of 2020, I knew 4 people who had been diagnosed with COVID, who were hospitalized. 3 of them died. 2 weeks in, this is still March. So this was all real and really scary. My wife and I both had our identities stolen during the lockdown. My mother-in-law got hit by ransomware hackers. My mom got hospitalized 2 times, neither time for COVID. Didn't matter during COVID. I couldn't go visit her. She's in Connecticut. I got a call for updates. She was declining her condition in the hospital. They didn't know why. So I'm just freaking out from that. Our daughter is a nursing student at Northeastern University. She was doing her co-op at that time. So she was working. She had a full-time job during that semester at Children's Hospital. So she's literally on Longwood Ave on the front lines of COVID. That's super stressful. We had 2 cats. They're not technically emotional support animals, but believe me when I tell you, during the lockdown, they became that. And it was awesome. These are 2 sisters. Delaney, our daughter, picked them out when she was 5. It was great. But they both got really sick, and we were scared about them and their health. In fact, one night I was sitting in the chair in the living room, just petting Gabby. Gabby's the muted calico on your right. Her fur is like bunny rabbit soft. It's just the best feeling, just petting her. I told Jen one night, I said, you know, this is like my worry beads, just petting Gabby here, sitting on the chair. And literally, within like an hour or 2, the vet called with bad news about Gabby's health. It's like that was the kind of stuff that was going on during the lockdown. So I, for the first time ever, needed to go on mental health meds to deal with my stress and anxiety. I was on Zoloft or sertraline. And I had to take not 1, but 2 leaves of absence from work because my mental health was just imploding in my head. This affected, of course, my physical health, at which point I hit the trifecta. I got bronchitis, and it seemed to be getting worse. So again, my wonderful wife said, you know, maybe you should get that checked. Deja vu. Went in, sure enough, I didn't just have bronchitis, I also had COVID and pneumonia. I hit the trifecta, baby. I had them all. So, turns out, when you're coughing up a lung every minute for 2 months straight, you can't do acupuncture because you don't want someone pressing around with needles when you're wrenching all over the place. No chiropractic, no massage, no tuina, no sleep. That wonderful picture of me not being my best self is right after an all-night sleep lab at Leahy, or as the tech called it, the no-sleep lab, as you can see by my wide-awake appearance. So what does all this mean? All this stress, no ways to mitigate it, worst surgery ever. So much so it wasn't just 1 day, it was multiple days. I walked away finally with 75 stitches and staples in my skull. I'd gone from 4 or 5 baseline to way overboard. So the next day, I did something really important. Sent out invitations. You are invited to a giant neighborhood pity party at the Sprague's house from 1 to 1 EVs on Saturday. So come commiserate about how much it stinks to be us. And by the way, it's BYOT. You got to bring your own tissues because we're not buying cases of Kleenex at Costco. So it's kind of funny as a joke, but it's also real. So one of the things I've learned so much on my 3-decade journey with cancer, most journeys with cancer are short because you either go into remission or you pass away. I've had 30 years to be on this amazing journey. One of the things I learned is it's really, really important to give yourself grace. Like I said, a lot of people have a lot worse stuff than me, but it doesn't mean there aren't days when I'm still feeling not so great about myself or my disease. Having that opportunity, give myself that grace to have that pity party is so important, not because I have pity parties all the time. My wife can tell you it's not a regular occasion at the Sprague house. That's a fake invitation. But being able to know that it's okay if I want to have one is so huge. Because of that permission I give myself, I don't actually need it for the most part. 75 stitches of staples, that was a bit much. I needed that. But generally speaking, I don't need it. So get through the pity party, and then it was time to start fixing this. And at this point, I had a pretty good idea of what to do to fix it. So we can cue the rocking music. Oh yeah. It was time to relax my frickin' brains out. I knew what to do. So, also during COVID, I learned of Dr. Weil's Integrative Wellness Coach certification, which had been there before, but that was for doctors and nurses. Now we had this one for non-medical people, like me. This was huge. I was so excited to get back in here, learn even more, and be able to pay it forward what I'd learned all these years to help other people so they wouldn't have to go through 30 years of a chronic disease to learn this stuff and improve their health. So I started 2.5 years of studying for the certification. And again, this cancer journey is amazing. And one of the things that happened on this journey is I started supercharging my already existing healing regimen with this new knowledge I was gaining. Result? I grew up in Needham, so I have the Boston accent, so sometimes it comes out when I get excited. But this was the best surgery ever! Instead of a baseline of 4 or 5, I had 4 the entire year. 2 visits with 2, 2 with 0. For a hereditary disease with no cure. 0 was not on the radar. In fact, the day before my first 0, we were taking my mother-in-law out to lunch for her birthday up in Maine. My sister-in-law came with her new husband. He didn't know any of my background with the cancer stuff. And we happened to mention over lunch. He said, yeah, so I got my surgery appointment tomorrow. And he's like, well, I mean, I know you have an appointment, but how do you know you have surgery? And Jen and I, in stereo across the table, because we've been doing it for 30 years. The next day was 0. Mind blown. So the secret is simple. You need to empower your body, mind, and spirit to do their thing. So we talk about integrative wellness. It's comprised of mind, body, and spirit. Each one is intertwined. Each one is equally important. You can't separate them. You can't look at it in a vacuum. First off is the mind, which is literally the brains of your operation. You may notice they call it mind-body, not body-mind. There's a reason for that, because the mind is the most important part. Containing your stress, anxiety is huge for the mental, physical, and spiritual health. And if you're wondering what a good skin cancer appointment looks like for me, this is it. That's my blood pressure. 98 over 60. I'm usually right around 100 over 70. Before I got this disease, I was a type A, go, go, go kind of person, very career-driven. But what I say is that cancer cured my type A personality. So part of this mind, though, one of the biggest challenges in our mind is negative self-talk. Anybody? Anybody hear of any of this? Part of why it's such an issue is because, unfortunately, it's in there 24/7, 365. We can't divorce. You can't go have brain surgery and say, take out my negative self-talk. It's not possible. So it manifests itself in terms of judgment of yourself or other people, in terms of beating yourself up, or bullying your childlike, open mind. So I've got a little suggestion for you that may help. You can try reducing it with a hammer, which is a really important tool. Now, if you're going to cast judgment on yourself, you need a gavel, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? If you're going to beat yourself up, someone's trying to bully your childlike self, it's a pink and yellow plastic hammer, people. Come on, if this doesn't bring out your inner child, I don't know what will. So this is really important, this hammer. So I give you this as a mnemonic device. Anytime that negative self-talk starts creeping in your head, think of this. And if you don't think these words are powerful enough, consider that they come from Tom Thor. So what exactly does this mean? Well, remember, at the beginning I said we had amazing bodies, all of us. If I was a betting man, I would bet big money that some of you said, nah, I got this body part that's too big, and this one's too small, and this one's too jiggly. No, no, no. But again, it's kind of a thing out there underneath. How much can negative self-talk hurt our wellness? Well, let's ask a quart of milk. So one of the things I mentioned earlier was the emotional baggage retreat that I went on way back when. That was a hard one to go on because I felt like I could benefit from it maybe, but I also felt like there was a huge potential for this to be really, really big waste of money. Some of that woo-woo kind of stuff, you know? So this is down in Westwood, so it's a long drive from the North Shore. It was being run by a Native American by the name of Grandfather Morning Owl. That's legit. I actually made out the check to Grandfather Morning Owl. One of the things he did was this thing called kinesiology. And I'm going to way oversimplify it now, but basically you're holding up an object such as a quart of milk, and the idea is they're going to go through your life, and if you get to a point where there was some trauma in your life, your arm's going to weaken a little bit. So he starts with me, got my arm out, holding the quart of milk. My arm's out, starts counting through my 20s, but 20, 19, 18, nothing. 17, 16, 15, negative self-talk, 24/7, 365. Oh my God, you look like the biggest idiot standing there with milk in your, look at you. You got a quart of milk in your hand, you've got some Native American telling you stuff, you paid all this money to go get, you're such a moron. 14, 13, 12. And not only that, he made you go down the store and buy some Pendleton blanket, which apparently is really important to the Native American people. They say it's got healing energy in it, and it's something that's so important to them that they wrap themselves in it when they get buried, when they die. You went and paid big, like the paying for the conference wasn't enough. Now you paid big bucks for this blanket on top of that, and you're standing there like an idiot holding the milk crate in your hand. 9, 8, 7. You are such an idiot. Here's what you should do. Grandfather Morning Owl, better yet, grandson Tommy Hawk, how about you take Grandfather Morning Owl's milk, go in the other room, put it back in the fridge, and then it won't go spoiling on him, and then you can keep on walking out the door, get in the car, and drive home with just the teeny, tiny shred of dignity you have left. 5, 4, 3. My arm plummeted, as if it had been shot. Grandfather Morning Owl was taken aback. Wow, what happened when you were 3? I don't know, I was 3. Can't remember what I had for dinner last week. Is there someone you can ask? Well, my dad's dead. My brother wasn't born yet, so just my mom. So that night I called my mom. Hey Mom, remember that emotional baggage retreat thing I told you about? Yeah, so we did that today, and we did this kind of weird thing with milk. Don't ask. But it seems to show that there was some like trauma in my life when I was 3. Anything? I mean, I was 3. I don't remember. You remember anything? She does remember something, she says. Yeah, so what was it? Yeah, Mom, you know, taking your crayons and drawing a picture on the wall when you're a kid, that's kind of like childhood 101. I don't think that counts as trauma. You know, maybe to you it was a little traumatic, but to me it's probably not like a big... what's that? There's more. Okay, so, oh, that's so cute, Mom. I was drawing a family portrait. It was me, my dad, and my mom. So yeah, so again, I'm not seeing the trauma. Wait, what? This time it was my jaw that hit the floor. In the picture, I had a knife, and I was stabbing my dad. So while other toddlers were learning about colors, how to count, also maybe saying, these are knives in the kitchen, only Mommy and Daddy touch these, you do not touch them, they're very dangerous. Little Tommy Hawk had a whole different education. I learned that knives could be used to kill someone. I also figured out that killing my dad would make things better for me and my mom, and we'd be safer. Did I mention that I was this many years old? So I went back the next day and told grandfather what had happened. And he looked at me with his quart of milk, and he said, "Owl, out, drop the milk." No, he didn't really say that, but that would have been so funny if he did. Oh my gosh, that would have been falling on the floor laughing. But, needless to say, for the rest of that retreat, he had my complete, undivided attention. That Pendleton blanket, we spent some quality time, a lot of healing going on. In fact, still have that Pendleton blanket. That's what it looks like. That's Gabby. She never used to, that's our bed. She never used to go on the bed. She got sick, like I said, during COVID. And I was stressed out, so I had the blanket on the bed quite a bit. Right away, she gravitated to the blanket, like she knew the healing energy was there. And the other photo there at the bottom, that's Blossom. The other cat, same deal, she knew the healing power of the blanket. So my little inner negative talk voice got banished to the back corner of my brain for the rest of that retreat. It was fantastic. So, all right, moving on. The pursuit of perfection can be an open door to negative self-talk. I know a lot of people can be perfectionists. I just warn you to be careful. And what I suggest is that rather than going for the 100%, which is unattainable and allows all that negative stuff to come in, but remember, you have a tool now. But if it does come in, you have something to deal with it. But I suggest aiming for 80-20 rather than 100-0, because that is reachable, and you can adjust from there. In my own example, I was fine with 4 or 5 BCCs every quarter. But then all of a sudden, wait, what? I can go 0? Shift and adjust the regimen and the expectations. All right, number 2, the body. So this is really important too. You want to be aware of what you put in, on, and near your body. So in terms of in your body, there can be chemicals that can be not so good for you in what you eat and drink. On your body, toiletries, cosmetics, clothing, you would not believe how many potentially harmful chemicals are in those. You think, oh, well, it's regulated, right? Not exactly. For instance, in Europe, I believe it's around 1,300 chemicals have been banned from their cosmetics because they can be harmful. Here in the US, anyone want to guess how many have been banned? Close, 15. So that leaves a lot of room for chemicals in there that are not going to be good for you. And then near your body, of course, in your house or yard, everything from pesticides to paint, plastics, there's a lot of harmful things in plastics, fibers, house and yard. So now you're thinking, boy, there's a lot of stuff, Tom, how am I supposed to keep that? Another great question. Look at you guys bringing the great questions. Here's some resources that are going to help you. First one is EWG.org, also known as Environmental Working Group, EWG. They have things like the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Organic food is typically more expensive than non-organic food. The Dirty Dozen tells you the 12 things of produce that use the most pesticides. So if you're on a limited budget, you can buy things that are organic for those things, because that's going to limit in a big way the amount of pesticides you're taking in your body every day. Clean 15 is the flip side. Here's the 15 things that have the least amount of pesticides. So if you can replace some of the Dirty Dozen with the Clean 15, that's all good for you too. They also rate, again, all the cosmetics, toiletries, sunscreen, how many toxic chemicals are each of those. You can go for the green, which means they have hardly any or none, or you can go for the red, which has a ton. Again, your call. A couple really good apps, Clearia and Yucca, allow you to scan foods and products for harmful chemicals and allergens in them. Water filter is really important too. We use a carbon block from Multipure, but I'm not a paid spokesman. I don't put stock in the company. I'm just saying this works for us really well. But you can use other things like reverse osmosis. Again, if that's too big of an investment, you can go with, there's a thing called zero water pitchers, which also have pretty good filtration. Things like Brita, they're basically just filtering out dirt, rust, sediment, making the water taste a little better. They're not filtering out any of the potentially harmful chemicals. This next one I just love. It's anticancerlifestyle.org. I recently did a learning circle with them. They have so much great stuff. They have webinars, courses, videos, recipes, ebooks, so many things that are beneficial. They got a great crew there. It was founded by Meg Hirschberg. She and her husband were the founders of Stonyfield Yogurt, if you're familiar with Stonyfield Organic Yogurt. She had her own bouts with cancer, which led her to start this up. It's really fantastic. Highly recommend that. Even if you don't have cancer, even if you don't have another chronic disease, it's a great way just to go there and learn about ways to keep from getting it. Because that's one of the things about cancer. The American Cancer Society says that 40% of people in the US have cancer. There's a new case diagnosed basically every 15 seconds. So even if you don't have cancer, even if you're from a small family, say it's you, significant other, sibling, mom and dad, law of averages, 2 of those people will get cancer. So if you don't have something now, it may be coming. So things you can do to stave it off or prevent it or delay it, all good. Then the other thing is read labels. Again, really important to know what you're putting in your body. All right, then for moving your body, again, you can do walking. Just 5 minutes a day can make a difference. That's it. It's free. It's easy. You don't need any special equipment. Anybody can do it. Or, again, suiting something to your own needs. This is my friend Scott O'Leary here from the advertising business pictured. When he hit his 50s, he decided he wanted to do something to deal with his own issue. I was dealing with cancer. He was dealing with the disease of alcoholism. So he found a way to deal with it by running Spartan races in his 50s. He's in unbelievable shape. He recently ran a 240-mile race, which is basically like 9 marathons in the Moab Desert. Again, blows my mind. It works for him. Whatever works is great. It's keeping him from his addiction. All right, another thought for movement. If you have limited time, you can try a multitasking movement like yoga, tai chi, or qigong, which were on my chart earlier that my wife designed. And in just one session, you're gaining stress reduction, relaxation, introspection, strength enhancement, meditation, balance, flexibility, and you can do it low impact or high impact, totally up to you. The third prong is spirituality, which is big because it can be a really good stress reliever. Just knowing that there's something bigger than yourself out there, really important. So for me, in terms of my faith, I was on a cold, painful fence for a while, because when I was a kid, I would all the time pray to God to either fix my dad or get me out of that situation. And I felt like my prayers were never answered. You know, there were times that I thought he was going to kill me. There were times when I thought about killing myself. Still nothing. So I was in this cold, painful fence thinking that either there was no God, which would kind of stink, or there was, but sorry, Tommy, you just missed the cut. You were right, oh, so close. Really painful. So what did I do? Cold, painful fence, I got naked. Probably what all you would do. Or maybe none of you would do. But anyway, part of my regimen, massage therapy. It's amazing what you'll talk about when you're naked on a massage table with a sheet over you with some sort of stranger, but maybe you get a little bit of relationship over time. So with that, I told her, I said, you know, I just feel like either there is no God or he just doesn't choose to love me or help me. And she's like, and again, I was the last person in the world who would ever talk about religion, but when you're on the massage table and stuff happens, sorry. But she's like, well, why don't you ask him? I'm like, that would be great, except I don't have his email address. How do you go about doing this? It's like, well, you just say a prayer, ask if he loves you, and if he does, show you a sign. So I've got decades of backstory of not having prayers answered. So I've, sorry to say, I got a little attitude towards the big fella at this point. I'm like, all right, you know what? I've made a history of trying new things. Sure, I'll do it. So this is on a Saturday. So that night, in my kind of not so nice self, feeling hurt and angry that he never did anything seemingly for me, I said a little prayer. I said, hey, God, you know, if you love me, can you show me a sign? And you know what? And this is where I got really jerky. I'm like, because at the time I was what's called an Eastmas Christian, which means I went to church on Easter and Christmas, and that was it. I said, it's Saturday night. I said, I will even go to your house tomorrow to make it as easy as possible for you to show me something, anything. That was it. Shut my cocky self up, went to bed. Next morning we get up, go to church, take our seats in the pews, and within a few minutes, this giant waterfall appeared above me. And it was just raining down warm, comforting, soothing water that you could not believe. It was not like fire hose or it was bowling me over, but it was enough to be welcoming, and just I felt so comforted, and it was just mind-blowing. I was so overcome with emotion at this point, I started bawling my eyes out in the pew. Now at this point, Jen looks over and she sees me. She's like, are you okay? I was so overwhelmed I couldn't even talk back. I just kind of smiled and nodded and said, fine. Without missing a beat, Jen said, it's only the announcements. So like with Grandfather Morning Owl, that little cynical voice knocked to the back of my far reaches of my brain, and I'm now able to focus on having faith for the rest of my life, which again is a huge stress reliever because I know there's something bigger than me out there. All right, so wanted to give you some helpful hints and things for how to make self-care less expensive, because maybe you're thinking, well, you're doing all this stuff that's going to cost money. That's true, it does. But things like acupuncture, mental health therapy, and chiropractic are covered by insurance now. You can also have your copay covered by a flexible spending account if you get that one through work. So for instance, you're in the 24% tax bracket, basically you're getting 24% off your costs. Gym membership, same thing with your FSA and your health plan reimbursement. A lot of times your health plan will pay for your a couple $100 a year. That's a couple months of your membership. If you go to the Y like I do, I go to Ipswich, Beverly, Gloucester, and Salem. Different classes, different teachers, different schedules. So convenient. Don't pay any extra for any of the different places I go to. Don't pay any extra for the yoga or Tai Chi classes. Really good, and they have sliding scale membership. Massage acupuncture schools, you can get lower rates, or you can just go to a regular massage or acupuncturist and buy a bulk package, save a little money there. And then lastly, you can buy good massagers online. Home Medics is a good brand. I got a couple of those at home I recommend. Again, I'm not a paid spokesperson for any of this stuff. These are just things that I use, so I'm happy to share them with you. So now, like I said, I'm starting to become an integrative wellness coach. You may or may not be familiar with what that exactly means. So in essence, what I do is I partner to help you facilitate a path to do more of what you love in life by maximizing 7 core areas of health. I give you support, I provide accountability, no judgment, no guilt. I'm trying to lift you up, not bring you down. Those 7 core areas of health are movement, relationships, environment, sleep, nutrition, resiliency, and spirituality. So one last thing on spirituality. So maybe you almost didn't come here tonight. Maybe you just found out about it at the last minute. Maybe you're planning on coming, but then something came up and you almost didn't come. So for me, my first awareness of when the first time my dad threatened to kill me was I was 1 year old. Not because I remembered it, but because my aunt, who was a teenager at the time, teenagers love babies, so she was visiting, she witnessed it and told me about it. Multiple times after that, he threatened to kill me. Like I said, in my teenage years, there was lots of times I thought about killing myself. When I was 6, I almost drowned. In my late teens, early 20s, I was in not 1, not 2, but 3 total cars. Spoiler alert, I survived. And I've had cancer for 30 years. So there are a whole mess of reasons why I shouldn't be here tonight. There may be reasons why you shouldn't be here tonight, but here we are. So I would suggest that if you're not a spiritual person, and I'm not telling you what to do or who to believe or anything like that, but if you're not a spiritual person, maybe that's way too much or way too many coincidences to be an actual coincidence that brought you here, something to contemplate. All right, we have covered a lot tonight, so let's breathe again. So we're going to have you take a big inhale as you spread your arms wide open. And then you're going to exhale as you give yourself a squeeze. Then you're going to do it again. A big inhale as you spread your arms wide open. And a big exhale as you wrap your arms around your body and squeeze. Do it one more time. Big inhale while your arms are open. Biggest breath you've ever taken in your life. Wrap around and squeeze. And as you do that, say, I have an amazing body. Yeah, you do.